I could start us off with a bunch of statistics saying, 1 million students didn't get a diploma with their class last year, or that the largest percent of 18 to 24-year-olds who don't have a high school diploma are simply idle, neither in the labor market nor getting education. But where I want to begin is thinking about your family advancement story. And my bet is that everyone in this room has this story. That's the time in your family history when preparation met opportunity and family fortunes took a huge leap forward and benefited generations to come. And if we probe that advancement story enough, we probably found that somewhere in there was also a helping hand from someone, from some organization, from some institution that added to the equation. And what I want us to reflect upon is that today in America, if you don't have a high school diploma, you don't even have a shot at an advancement story, because there is no work for someone without a high school diploma. And that means there's going to be generations of students and entire communities cut off from the American dream, which would create an America we wouldn't want to recognize. The good news is that we're in a position to do something about this. With concentrated effort and strategic deployment of resources, we can end this crisis in a decade. And I want to give you the reasons why this is possible and how we can do it. First, we know where the problem is concentrated. We know we have a subset of high schools, about 2,000, and their feeder middle schools, where we've over-concentrated our neediest students and simply under-resourced them. These schools then reliably, year after year, produce about half the nation's dropouts. We also know within these schools and their feeder middle grade schools, the students who, absent intervention, have very low odds of graduating. In fact, we know as early as 6th grade, they are wildly signaling, essentially saying help, and we haven't yet learned how to see that. But we know that we can identify half of the future dropouts by their behaviors in 6th grade. 6th graders that have poor attendance, that get in trouble, and that are failing math and English in high poverty environments only have a 1 in 5 chance of graduating. And that's really shocking when you think about it. You could be 12 years old and essentially absent some adult making a difference, taking a stand, finding a solution, you're in deep trouble. And the key thing to think about that is the final reason we could change this. Often we implicitly think, well, what can we do? If students want to drop out and their families aren't supporting them, how can we change that? But the fact is, a 12-year-old student, right, wants to graduate. It's not like they've made some big life choice, like I can live without schooling. And we know that students actually struggle for years before they drop out, which again shows they want to graduate. If you interview someone who drops out, they regret it within days. So we have to destroy this myth that like they don't want it or they don't need it. Both are wrong. So how do we do something about it? Well, first we do have to transform these schools, and a lot of effort's being put into that, and the Obama administration is really focusing on really doing dramatic changes for the worst schools. We also know we have to change some crazy policies. Things like, well, we suspend you if you're chronically absent. It seems bizarre, but it's still commonplace. Right? But the final thing, and the reason we're here today, is we have to acknowledge that in these schools where we over-concentrate our neediest students and under-resourced them, there are simply hundreds of students a day who need something more than a good lesson every day. They need some adult to touch them, to help them, to push them forward. They need what we often call continual nagging and nurturing. And here's an example. They need someone every day to say, Mr. Washington, we're so excited you were in school today, and we expect to see you tomorrow. And if we don't, I'm going to come find you. And I will, too. And did you get your homework done? Really? Also those math problems you tend to sometimes not do? Okay, let's try to get them done after school so you're really ready for tomorrow. And you know what? I've heard you're having some troubles with Mr. Brown. And I know he can seem sort of mean and a little tough, but I talked to him, and he actually cares about you. But what he said is that, your sort of sarcasm he sees isn't helping. And we've got to find a different way for you to work with Mr. Brown. Now, that took 30 seconds, but there's many, many kids who need that every day to sort of keep pushing them, propelling them forward, giving them that helping hand. And then finally, there's a subset of those kids that have real out-of-school issues that we have to solve. If I'm staying home to give my grandma a diabetes shot, because I don't trust anyone else in my family to do it, until we know that and solve that, no amount of exhortation is going to get me there. So we need strategies to sort of create the second shift of adults, to get them continually in kids' lives, and in a smart, targeted way for the kids that we know need the help, and for the things they need the help with, coming to school every day, getting their work done, and having good relationships with their teachers. So here's where Boys and Girls Club really has a unique role to play. And here's several reasons. One, they really have unparalleled reach. They are where these students live. They are in the high poverty communities. They're in the schools, but they're also in the housing projects. And they're also in the Native American reservations in rural areas. It's very rare to have a national nonprofit that goes urban to rural nationwide. That allows them to have good, strong research-based programs that they can project nationwide into these communities. Instead of everyone trying to reinvent the wheel, they can sort of leverage learnings and spread them nationwide. And finally, they have that continual presence. They're there. They can be in the student's life from those early days of 6th grade when the student is deciding, is schooling for me? Is this going to work? Or am I going to put my face on and say, yes, sir, I'm here, but be somewhere else? And then slowly, slowly disengage, miss a few days here and there, don't turn a few assignments in. Suddenly find myself in 9th grade, failing my courses, and not being promoted to 10th grade, and being told, well, just try again, and realizing that I'm now about the age of dropping out, and I'm lost, and I don't think this is going to work, and I'm going to try something else. Well, the Boys and Girls Club, right, can be with them from that 6th grade or before, all the way through high school. So that really gives this strong, stable presence of this continual touching, nagging, and nurturing, and using effective programs to the right kids. So we can basically get the right intervention to the right kid at the right time, at the intensity and scale required. And if we solve that engineering equation, and we do it in the right places to the right kids, which we can, we will have ended the dropout crisis.